Collaboration is key for teams.
Namaste, Masters. Welcome to Swadhyaya Challenge. First of all, my deepest gratitude to Brahmashri Subhash Patriji for giving this wonderful opportunity. Today we have special guest Nandhini Bhavanam. She is a young master who is 10th grade. She has been meditating for more than 3 years and actively participating in various awareness programs and helping in kids meditation as a guide and taking active part in natural retreat and actively contributed to DMC of Atlanta in playing a grade. And now we will meditate for 5 minutes and we'll go to Swadhyaya Challenge. Thank you, Masters.
Nandhini, you will guide Nana. Everyone, just relax your body. Bring your attention to your breath. Just focus on your normal, natural breath. If you get any thoughts, just bring your attention back to your breath. Whenever you're ready, gently place your hands on your closed eyes and open your hands with a small smile.
Yes, Nandhini, you can start the session. Thank you.
So today I'll be just giving small summaries on the chapters of the book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. And it's a book that I read recently, like a week. So I finished it yesterday. So the book is about a really powerful business, like a successful lawyer named Julian Mantle. And the book goes through the perspective of his intern or someone who works with him, and his name is John. So the book goes through the perspective of someone named John. So the first chapter is called The Wake Up Call. And in the first chapter, it shows, it describes Julian's pursuit of success. Like the more he achieves, the more he wants it. And he has a fast-paced lifestyle. He went to the point of working 18 hours a day. So due to his unhealthy lifestyle, by the age of 53, he looked like he was in his early 70s. And Julian was the type of person who goes to dinners at late nights. He meets young models, drinking, like, etc. So what John thought was that Julian is losing his sense of purpose in his life. he could see the physical changes, like he had immense stress, unhealthy lifestyle. So due to all of this, he had a massive heart attack during a courtroom trial. In the second chapter, they take Julian to the hospital. The doctor tells that the heart attack was very serious, but his condition is stable. But he made a decision to leave his law practices, and he told the doctor to tell them that he will not be returning to the firm. And everyone was completely shocked. Like, he's been doing this law practice thing since after he graduated, and it was like his passion. He was successful, and everyone was shocked. So 3 years after the accident, John becomes a lawyer. He has a family and kids. And one day when he was in his office, his assistant said that there's someone waiting to see you and won't leave until he talks to you. So John was on his way to go meet somebody else, and he was thinking to call security, but he says okay to meet him. So when the door opened, he saw a man smiling. He looked about mid-30s. He was in good shape. He was like radiating an abundance of vitality and energy. And John's first thought was, he must be coming to take my job, or maybe this is someone from a case that I dealt with before. And so the man, he suddenly says, it's like, is this how you treat all your visitors? Even though I taught you everything about the business world, about lawyering, all of this. And John realizes that this was Julian Mantle, and he was completely in awe of his transformation. Like, everything about Julian, just his energy showed serenity and peace. And before, he was like, he had the elderly appearance, and that was all gone. He was just looking like a youthful, healthy man. So then it continues to chapter 3, where Julian starts to tell his story. He told John that he saw a golden opportunity when he had his heart attack to rethink about his life choices, everything he's made till the point, to just get back the inner fire that he had, that passion, that childlike curiosity, all of that. So he told how he sold all his material possessions, like his mansion, his Ferrari, which is where the title comes from. He had a summer island. He sold all of those, and he headed for India, where he traveled from village to village, learning new customs, seeing sights. He grew to love the Indian people. And while Julian was in Kashmir, he met a man named Yogi Krishnan, who told him that he was also a lawyer. He found this path. He was serving at a temple. So Julian he told him his story, and Yogi Krishnan, he told him that there were people in the Himalayas who could help you, like, get back to your lifestyle, rebuild a richer and fuller life. And they were called the sages of Sivana. They were living high in the Himalayas, but nobody knows where they lived. And all those who tried to find them have failed and had terrible consequences of trying and failing. So Julian was determined to get his old life back. So he traveled for 7 days, and once he was far up high in the Himalayas, he saw a figure dressed in a long red robe with a hood, dark blue hood. And so he yelled out at the figure, but the figure started running, and Julian said he needed help to find the sages. He told him his story, how he had been traveling. He had little food and water left. So the figure asked, "Why do you want to meet the sages?" And Julian said he wanted his own life back, and what he went through was too much for him, that he just wanted to go back, bring himself back, not go back to the type where, oh, it's just work, then sleep, then eat, and back to the daily schedule. He wanted to do something different. So the figure revealed that he was one of the sages and that he would take him to their temple. But then and there, he made Julian promise, the wisdom I give you, you go back to your homeland and you share the wisdom with all those who need to hear it. You have to give them hope that they deserve, and Julian accepted. So then in chapter 4, the sage takes Julian to their temple, and he took him to the village, and Julian was completely surprised because the entire village looked as if it was made out of roses. The sage revealed that his name was Yogi Raman and explained that he was the eldest sage there. And the people there, the men, they were controlled, and they offered a simple bow as their greeting to Julian. The women were equally impressive, and they were like going through the village busily, but it wasn't like the frantic busyness that we see in everyday life. They were moving gracefully with focus, focusing on what they were doing. Later on, it goes back to where Julian tells that his desire for knowledge, he tells John about how he wanted to gain more knowledge, so he spent every waking moment with the yogi. And Julian said that his first indications of his personal expansion came only after 3 weeks in the Himalayas, in Sivana. So he started noticing the beauty in the most ordinary things within a month of applying the principles and techniques of the sages. He told John that he had begun to cultivate a deep sense of peace and inner serenity. He became more joyful and spontaneous, getting that creativity, curiosity back. And each passing day, his overweight frame became stronger and fit, and he felt like he could do anything and like unlock the infinite potential that the universe holds. So he told John that he would snicker at people just improving on their inner and outer lives. Most people, they just focus on both of their sides, not just toward all worldly things or more spiritual things, but soon he came to realize that that's how you care for others. He told John an example, like, if you can't care for yourself, how can you care for others? How can you do good if you don't feel good? I can't love you if I cannot love myself. And so Julian started to notice it was getting late, and John was really, really interested, and he asked for methods. And Julian said that he would come tomorrow and tell him everything he knew. So Julian showed up at John's house in the same red robe and with a dark blue hood, and John started smiling, remembering the times he used to wear suits from France, Italy, all of those. So they started laughing. So Julian started to tell John about the ancient techniques that he learned about mind control and grasping the habit of worry. He spoke of the wisdom of all the other sages that had shared and spoke of methods to unleash youthfulness and energy. And he said that's in every one of us, and it's deep inside of us, but we just have to let it out. And John grew skeptical. Like, why would he say that it's inside of all of us? Like, is it real? Is it not real? He started to become skeptical, and he thought it was a joke. So he started questioning, and Julian asked, "How do you prove your case in the court?" And John said, "You provide persuasive evidence." So Julian told him, "Look at the evidence. I'm right in front of you. I changed literally completely. You can see, you can feel the abundance of energy I'm radiating. Isn't this enough proof?" So Julian was trying to persuade John to accept this information. John was still unsure, but he tried to keep an open mind. So in order to convince him, Julian spotted a pot of tea that was next to him. He started pouring it into John's cup, and he poured it till the cup was completely full and it was pouring out of the cup. So John watched silently, but then he couldn't take it anymore and yelled, "No matter how much harder you pour, no matter how much hard you try, no more will go in." So Julian said, "Just like this cup, you seem to be full of your own ideas. So how can any more go in until you first empty your cup?" So from that point, John realized what Julian was telling him. Like, the truth of his words completely blew his mind. So Julian told a story that Yogi Raman once told him with about 7 virtues for a life overflowing with inner peace, joy, and wealth of spiritual gifts. So he told this story of, you just sit down, imagine it in your mind, and you imagine that you're sitting in the middle of a green, lush garden, and the garden is filled with flowers, the environment is super silent, and in the middle of the garden, you have a lighthouse, a 6-foot-tall lighthouse, and out of the door comes a 9-foot-tall, 900-pound Japanese sumo wrestler who is naked but covered in pink wire cables, and he casually wanders into the center of the garden. As the sumo wrestler moves around, he sees a shiny stopwatch someone left behind years ago. So he suddenly falls to the ground and he goes unconscious. He just lies there until the point where you think he's taken his last breath. He awakens and he smells some fresh yellow roses blooming nearby, and they energize the wrestler. And to his left, he looks to his left, and he sees through the bushes at the edge of a garden a long path covered by millions of sparkling diamonds, and something inside of him tells him to take the path, and he takes the path, and it leads him down the road of everlasting joy and eternal bliss. Julian explains that the garden is a symbol for the mind. You care for your mind and you nurture it like a garden, it will blossom far beyond your expectations. He says that if you have a farm, and that farm or garden is absolutely beautiful and it's amazing, he says that good gardeners guard their gardens and make sure that no contamination ever enters. He compares it to people and how they put worries, anxieties, thinking about the past, worrying about the future, fears that you're basically putting into that garden. He says to live life to the fullest. You must stand at the gate of your garden, and let only the very best information you truly cannot even afford the luxury of one negative thought. So John asks for some exercises that he can do to unlock mind power. And Julian says that he gives an example of letting only good thoughts and keeping the bad thoughts out. So he gives an example that while he was traveling through Calcutta, he met a school teacher named Malika, and she loved teaching, and she taught at a school in their village. So one day, her everyday message was, your I can is more than your IQ. So one day the school was set on fire by an arsonist, and the community, her village community felt really angry, and they were thinking that the children would be without education because there's no school anymore. But Malika, she told the parents that if they took the time to search for it, this was actually a gift in disguise. The school was old and the roof was leaking, the walls were breaking out, and she was like, we can build a better school. And so she encourages everyone to come together and they build a better school. And he says, no matter whatever happens in your life, you alone have the capacity to choose your response to it. Julian tells John that Yogi Raman once said that there are no mistakes in life, only lessons. There is no such thing as a negative experience, only opportunities to grow, learn, and advance along the road of self-mastery. From struggle comes strength. Even pain can be a wonderful teacher. John asks for any quick fixes, like, I don't have that much time. Nobody in the world has that much time today. So he asks for some quick fixes to do it. So Julian tells him of another story where there was this young boy who traveled far from his home to study under a teacher. And when he met the man, his first question was, how long will it take before I am as wise as you? The teacher replied, 5 years. The student said, that's a very long time. How about I work twice as hard? The boy replied, then it'll take 10 years, said the master. How about I stay all night and all day, every night? Don't reply. How about I stay all night, all day and work? I promise to devote more energy to my goal. And he says, it'll take 15 hours, 15 days. No, not 15 days, 15 years. And he says, why every time I tell that I promise to put more effort to reach my goal, you tell me that it'll take longer? Why is this? The teacher replied that with one eye fixed on the destination, the end point of your goal, there is only one left to guide you along the journey. You just have to follow the journey. No matter how long it takes, you're just following it. You can't push knowledge into you. So Julian gives small techniques like the heart of a rose, where you sit silently in a room, you just stare at the center of the rose and try to keep all the thoughts out of your head. The second technique is opposition thinking. You get a negative thought, you replace it with a positive one. Just imagine your mind as a slideshow. As soon as you sense a negative thought coming, you replace it with a positive one. It's like deleting a slide. And the last one is the secret of the lake. And this was one that the sages of Sivana gave, where they would look into a body of water and envision themselves in whatever way they want. If they wish to be happy, they would picture themselves laughing, smiling. If it was courage they wanted, they'd picture them acting with strength in the moment of crisis and challenges. So the next chapter tells about the lighthouse in the middle of the garden. The symbol of the lighthouse represents another ancient principle, and it means that the lighthouse will be there to serve as a guiding place, as a refuge on your way to your destination. So he says that the purpose of life is a life of purpose, meaning that those who are truly enlightened know what they want out of life. They have goals in every aspect of their life. And these goals for every aspect of your life, spiritually, physically, relationship-wise, all of those, all those will serve a role similar to that played by the lighthouse. It offers you guidance and refuge. So, Julian says that once his teacher told him that one would think that the less one worked, the more one would have the chance to experience happiness. However, the real source of happiness can be stated in the word achievement. Lasting happiness comes from steadily working to accomplish your goals and advancing confidently in the direction of your purpose. The more you accomplish your goals, the more happier you get. So Julian tells John that you have to know your life's aim and manifest that vision to reality by consistent action, and that the sages called this dharma, which is the Sanskrit word for life's purpose. Julian tells another story where he and Yogi Raman were sitting by an oak tree, and the sage pulled one of the roses from a garland nearby, and he pulled 3 objects out of a sack. The first object was his favorite bow, the second was an arrow, and the third was a handkerchief. So the sage asked Julian to put the handkerchief over his eyes as a blindfold, and he asked, "How far away from the rose am I?" Julian replied, "Maybe about 300 feet. The sage once again asked, "Have you ever observed me during my daily practice of archery?" And Julian said that, "I have never seen you miss the target a single time from that far, and I don't think you'll miss it from 100 feet. So the sage, with his eyes closed, aimed and missed by an incredibly large distance. In that story, he revealed the lesson that you will never be able to hit a target that you cannot see. And people spend their entire lives dreaming of becoming happier, living with more vitality, and having an abundance of passion, that they don't really put a target or see themselves in that life. They just dream. So Julian gives a 5-step method that he learned for achieving goals. So step 1 is to have a clear vision of your outcome. Know what you want. Write it down. Put pictures of it. Step 2 is to create positive pressure to keep you inspired. Like, say you want to become fit, then you would tell everyone you know, "I'm going to become fit in, say, 2 months." That way, you'll have that pressure on you, because nobody in society today wants to look as a failure. So you'll have that positive pressure to keep you moving. So step 3 is never set a goal without attaching a timeline to it. Step 3, you could make like a dream book. You divide it into different sections of spirituality, relationships, physically. Maybe add pictures to it. Like if you want to improve physically, put pictures of people that maybe you want to become a better runner. Put pictures of of runners that are like won gold medals, world champions, things like that. So adding pictures might encourage you to reach that goal. Step 4 is to follow what the sages called the magic rule of 21. You perform that activity for 21 days in a row and see the results. Step 5 is just to enjoy the process and have fun. Don't seriously stick onto that goal and be like, I'm not having no fun until all of this is done. You have to enjoy the process. The process is a learning process. You have to have fun. So in the next chapter, Julian explains about the 9-foot-tall, 900-pound Japanese sumo wrestler. And he says that the sumo wrestler is a very important element, and it was something developed and refined called kaizen. It's a Japanese word that means constant and never-ending improvement. Julian tells John that no matter how much you learn, no matter how much you think you're perfect, you always have something to learn. Even if you think you learned everything in the entire universe, there's always something to learn. So he tells things that his teacher told him, like self-mastery is the DNA of life mastery. If you master yourself and know everything about yourself, you can master your life. Life will be easy as a breeze. Success on the outside begins within. Enlightenment comes through the consistent cultivation of your mind, body, and soul. Julian says he told John that his teacher once told him that the only limits on your life are those you set yourself. He gave an example, like he made John do a number of push-ups until he feels that he cannot do it anymore. He did 23, and Julian was like, do 10 more and you can stop. And somehow John pushed through. So he thought his limit was 23 push-ups. But if someone pushes you or you push yourself and you take out that limit, then you can do so much more than you even think. Your mind can't even think that far. So when you practice the art of Kaizen by pushing yourself daily, you work hard to improve your mind and body. You do the things you fear. You have a fear of public speaking, you sign up for 20 speeches. You have a fear of bugs. You see bugs, you say, I love bugs, you think about them. So Julian tells that you have to change yourself before you change your life. He gives a story that, like, one night a father was relaxing with a newspaper after a long day, but his son, who wanted to play, kept on pestering him, saying, come play with him. So the father ripped out a piece of a globe and he tore that into 100 tiny pieces. He said, son, go ahead and try to put this back together. He thought that it would keep the little boy busy long enough for him to finish reading his paper. But to his amazement, the son returned after only 1 minute with the globe perfectly back together. When the father asked him how he achieved this feat, the son smiled gently and he said, Dad, on the other side of the globe, there's a picture of a person. Once I got that person together, the world was okay. So based on this story, he gives 10 ancient rituals for radiant living. And the first ritual was the ritual of solitude. It's a period of peace, and it's a period of time. You sit there for 15 minutes, just a little over 15 minutes, and you explore the healing power of silence. And you come to know who you really are, the real you, not who everyone thinks you are. And the second ritual is the ritual of physicality, and it's the power of physical care. The principle says that if you care for your body, you care for your mind. As you prepare your body, you prepare your mind. You train your body, you train your mind. He tells John that there are 168 hours in a week, and at least 5 of those hours should be invested in some sort of physical activity. The third ritual is the ritual of live nourishment. A poor diet has a pronounced effect on your life. It drains your mental and physical energy. It affects your mood, and it hampers the clarity of your mind. As you nourish your body, you nourish your mind. The fourth ritual is the ritual of abundant knowledge. It's centered around the whole notion of lifelong learning and expanding your knowledge for the good of yourself and all those around you. The fifth is the ritual of personal reflection. By taking the time to get to know yourself, you will connect to a dimension of your being that you never knew you had. We all have many sleeping talents, whether it's being an artist, being a musician, being someone who talks, being a dancer, being someone who plays an instrument. So by taking the time to know that we can do any of these things, all of this will make you stronger, more at ease with yourself, and wiser. The sixth ritual is the ritual of early awakening. Most of us sleep for more than we need to. An average person can get in on 6 hours of sleep and remain perfectly healthy and alert. Sleep is really nothing more than a habit, and like any other habit, you can train yourself to achieve the results you want, which is sleeping less in this ritual. The seventh ritual is the ritual of music. Never forget the power of music. Spending a little time with it every day, even if it is just listening to a soft piece of music, some classical, some hip-hop, rock, all of those. When you drive to work, while you drive to work, you feel down or you feel bad, you can just play some music. So the eighth ritual is the ritual of the spoken word. So the sages had a series of mantras which they would recite almost every part of the day, morning, noon, and night. And they told that the practice was really effective and it kept them focused and strong. And a mantra is nothing more than a collection of words, and in the Sanskrit way, man means mind and tra means freeing. So a mantra is a phrase which is designed to free the mind. The ninth ritual is the ritual of congruent character. This requires you to daily take action to build your character. Strengthening your character affects the way you see yourself and the actions you take. The actions you take come together the actions you take affect your habits, and your habits lead you to your destiny. You fix your character, it affects the way you see yourself and the actions you take. The actions you take come to your habits. The habits will lead you on a good path to your goal, your destination. The last ritual is the ritual of simplicity. This ritual requires you to live a simple life. Yogi Raman once said that you should never live in the thick of thin things, meaning just focus only on your priorities, the activities which are truly meaningful in your life, and it will be uncluttered, rewarding, and exceptionally peaceful. Julian continues the story and reminds John that the sumo wrestler was covering his private parts with pink wire cable. And the wire cable serves as a way to remind you of the power of self-control and discipline in building a richer, happier, and more enlightened life. If you look at the wired cable, it consists of many thin, tiny wires placed on top of another alone. So each one is flimsy and weak, but together, if you put them all together, there are much more greater and stronger than separate parts. So this is the same way that self-control and willpower are similar. It's essential to take small, tiny time and just listen to the virtue of personal discipline. there was an old African proverb that says, when spider webs unite, they can tie up a lion. So Julian told John that discipline is built by consistently forming small acts of courage. The more you nurture self-discipline, the more it'll mature. Willpower is the essential virtue of a fully actualized life and gives the technique of creativity and envisioning in the vow of silence. The next chapter, Julian starts off by asking John a question, saying, you know what's funny about life? And he says, by the time most people figure out what they really want and how to go about attaining it, it's usually too late. And there's a saying that says, if youth only knew, if age only could. Meaning if the youth had the knowledge, they would be on a good path. They would spread this to others. And if age only could, if aged elderly people could do whatever they want, they would do it. So, the next part is the shiny gold stopwatch in the story. And it represents the most important thing in today's day, time. So positive thinking, goal setting, self-mastery, it all means nothing without time. The sages of Sivana, they each had developed a time consciousness. And they always said those who use time wisely from an early age will be rewarded with productive and satisfying lives. Those who have never been exposed to the principle of time never realize that they have an enormous human potential waiting for them to unlock. Julian said that he learned from a wise old sage that 80% of the results you achieve in your life come only from 20% of the activities that occupy your time. An example is you have a busy Monday morning, so from morning until night you spend your time doing everything from chatting on your phone with clients, drafting legal pledges, to reading your youngest child a bedtime story or playing chess with your wife. But out of all those hundreds of activities you give your time to, only 20% of those will yield real lasting results. Only 20% of what you do will have an influence on the quality of your life. Julian tells John to don't let others steal your time. There are people who always call on the telephone just as you have put the kids to sleep, or and you've settled into your favorite chair and you're reading that novel that you've always heard so much about. There are people who just drop by, call on phone, or just when you have found a few minutes in a hectic day to catch your breath and collect your thoughts and be with yourself. Just have the courage of saying no, and to say no to the little things in life will give you the power to say yes to the big things that life will give you. People will respect you more when they see that you are a person who values his time. They will realize that your time is precious and they will value your time. Julian tells John about a deathbed mentality, which is a philosophy of life where you adopt the deathbed mentality and you live every day as if it was your last day on earth. Imagine waking up every day and asking yourself the simplest question, what would I do today if it was my last? Then think about it. How would you treat your family, your colleagues, even those you don't know? Think about how productive and excited you would be to live every moment to the maximum. The deathbed mentality, that question alone has the power to change many, many lives. Julian continues with the story about the 7 virtues, and he moves on to the yellow flowers, the yellow roses in the story. And meaning of the yellow flowers are when you work to improve the lives of others, indirectly you elevate your own life in the process. In the story, the flowers gave strength to the sumo wrestler when he fell unconscious. In that process, they were elevating their own life when they helped him. So when you take the practice of doing random acts of kindness daily, your own life becomes richer, far more meaningful to improve the quality of your life. You do something good, it comes right back to you. There's a saying, what goes around comes around. You do something good for others, you get that back to yourself. Nobody else gets the benefit. You cultivate a new perspective of why you are here on earth. You realize that you entered the world with nothing and you are destined to leave without nothing. So, being the case that there can only be one reason for being here, to give yourself to others, to contribute in a meaningful way. So, Julian again tells the story, and there was an old woman whose loving husband died, so she went to live with her son and his wife and daughter. So every day the woman's sight grew worse, her hearing grew worse. Some days, and her hand trembled so bad, it shook so bad, that her food would roll onto the floor, or the bowl would flip, or the food would fall onto the floor. So her son and his wife couldn't help but be annoyed at the mess she made. And one day they said enough was enough. So they set up a little table for the woman in a corner next to the broom closet. And they made her eat all of her meals there alone. She would look at them at mealtimes with tear-filled eyes from across the room, but they hardly even gave her a look. So one day, when their daughter was sitting on the floor playing with her building blocks, the father asked, "What are you making?" The girl replied, "I am building a table for you," she said. "You can eat yourselves in the corner someday when I get bigger." And the father and mother were moved to silence. They were astonished, and they were aware of what they did, of their actions. And so they moved the old woman back to their rightful places, and from that day on, she ate all her meals with them. And even when food fell on the floor or on the table, nobody seemed to mind anymore. So Julian said that in that story, the parents were not bad people. They simply needed that spark of awareness to light their candle of compassion. Acts of kindness make life richer. Meditate every morning on the good you will do for others during your day. The last chapter is The Timeless Secret of Lifelong Happiness. It had been 12 hours since Julian came to John's house. They sat all night, and the last and final element of the story was that the sumo wrestler walked out of the lighthouse in the middle of a beautiful garden with nothing more than pink cable ties. He slipped on a shiny gold stopwatch and fell to the ground. He regained consciousness when the marvelous fragrance of the yellow flowers reached his nose, and when he was in delight to see a long winding path with millions of tiny diamonds. And after following that path, he lived happily ever after. The path of diamonds reminds you and is a symbol to learn to live in the now, learn to live in the present moment, and savor it fully. Learn that happiness is a journey and not a destination. Live for today, because there will never be another one quite like. You shouldn't have regrets, like, I should have done that yesterday, or it's not going to come back. Yesterday will not come back. So the sumo wrestler found lasting fulfillment by the path of diamonds, and you deserve to follow that path of diamonds. And the very moment you start to, you understand that the path you are currently walking on is the one rich with diamonds, and the other one you just stopped worrying about it and stop spending so much time on wasteful things. You stop spending you start spending time on chasing life's big pleasure while you neglect the things that you don't even need, the things that your mind doesn't even need. And you enjoy the beauty and the sacredness of all that is around you, even the smallest of the smallest things. Julian told one last story, which I'm sure many people know. So, in ancient India, a king wanted to build a great tribute to his wife as a sign of his deep love and affection. And he wanted to create a structure the likes of which the world had never seen, and one that people would admire for centuries to come. So every day, block by block, the workers in the hot sun every day, they make this structure. And every day, the structure started to look a little more defined, a little more like a monument. So, after 22 years of daily gradual progress, this place of pure marble was complete. The Taj Mahal is one of the 7 wonders of the world, and Julian said that the point of the story is simple. Everyone on this planet is a wonder of this world. Every one of us is a hero in some way or another. Every one of us has the potential for extraordinary achievement, happiness, and lasting fulfillment. Like the Taj Mahal, overflowing wonders built by small victories lead to large victories. And that's the end of the book. I summarized all the chapters into small pieces. I hope everybody understood what I said throughout this session, and I would like to thank Satish Anna for hosting this and introducing me. I would like to thank Pushpa Auntie for giving me this opportunity. So, thank you.
Thank you, Nandhini. It's a wonderful lessons we learn. We have to practice in daily life whatever the wisdom you shared. That is the most important key points. Yeah, wonderful session. Thank you for giving this wisdom. Masters, anybody want to share your experiences?
Hi, Nandhini. Every word you said, it filled a joy in my heart, actually. It's you explained it so beautifully. Really nice, Nana. So I really appreciate you taking this. And the way you have summarized also, nowhere that it is not, lost the track, actually. So that's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, Auntie.
Anyone else wants to share your experience, Misters?
Yes, Nandhini.
Hi,
Yeah.
Auntie.
It was awesome, Nana. It was excellent explanation, and that gives like you understood the topic. It was from your heart. You were narrating it so very well. It was as if reading the book, like giving the summary. Very well done, Nana. Proud of you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. You are setting an example for many to follow. Thank you, Nana.
Thank you for listening, Auntie.
Hi, Nandhini. It was so beautifully explained you. I heard everything from the first starting to ending. I did not read this book. Now I am ready. I'm so interested to read this book after you explain. It was so nice. Keep it up.
Thank you, Auntie.
I want to listen more books in this book club from you.
Well, Ajay is coming next week, so.
Wow, nice. It's good. Keep it. Bye.
And
Masters,
good thing is, like, we did book clubs, but either we just, couldn't finish on the time, or like time. But Nandini, you are like on dot, 9 o'clock. Such a beautifully, maintain the time. And then when you are explaining about the time in the book also, I was, thinking how much it is, applicable for us to the entire life, actually. So I have no words. Thank you once again.
Well done, Nandini. So I joined late, but as I mentioned in the chat, I was doing the inspirational talks from the other book, but you did very good, Nana. Wonderful job, and such a nice explanation. So I had little bit, but good job, and keep it up.
Thank you, Auntie.
Masters, anybody else? Thank you, Nandini. It was a great wisdom, I can say that. And we have to practice each and every word you said in our daily life. Then we can get into enlightenment once we follow all the key messages shared by you. Thank you so much. Okay, Masters.
I think we can close the session if nobody is.
Yeah. Okay, Masters. Next, we will meet on next Swadhyaya challenge next week. Thank you so much for joining and sharing your experiences and wisdom. Thank you so much.